Hi guys, I'm Erik Voss, and this is a breakdown of The Walking Dead Season 8, Episode 8, the mid-season finale, How It's Gotta Be. And holy crap, this show just did the unthinkable, diverging from the comics in a major way by killing off a character we never thought could die. Neil, Beardy McHilltop, known for his iconic catchphrase, damn straight, which is also exactly the direction of Simon's bullet that went through his head. Though it was a little hard to see, the lighting and the framing was really weird here. For a second, I had no idea who died. I know, guys, I've been stalling talking about the real shocker here, mostly to give people who don't know what I'm talking about a chance to avoid getting spoiled. So get out of here, go watch the episode. Last chance if you haven't seen this episode yet. Okay, here we go. Coral Grimes, the Season 1 boy wonder whose plot armor has been as thick as his luscious locks, has been bitten. And according to actor Chandler Riggs, this bite is fatal, guys. No, he's not immune to walkers, and no, this wasn't a bite from a person. I don't think there were any terminus cannibals looking for a midnight snack of ribs. Episode 9 in February 2018 will be Riggs' final episode. Guy apparently just bought a house in Georgia near where the show shoots, too. This should scare the rest of you cast members on The Walking Dead. No one is safe to invest in real estate. Now, I'm gonna dig into what happened here, what it means for the show, and how it changes what we've already seen, and lots of other missable connections to past episodes and other influences on this game-changing mid-season finale. Let's start with the big question brought to us on Twitter by Just Another Idiot. Hey, don't sell yourself short. Let's see, AKA @AGreatWhiteSnark. There we go, much better. When did Carl get bit? It seems like he knew he was bit when he was talking to Negan, and how will it affect Rick's overall stability? Okay, good question. First and foremost, the question of when and how Carl got bit. Now, we didn't see it happen this episode, and that's because it actually happened 2 episodes ago. Episode 6, when he helped Sadiq clear all those walkers that were feasting on that elk. Now, I actually went back to rewatch this scene, and the show did a really good job at hiding this detail. If you look closely, Carl is braced against the elk, wrestling with one walker. Then he shoves that walker off of him to the side, and another walker grabs him. Meanwhile, in a very missable shot, that first walker rolls back over and goes for Carl's ribs, but the camera cuts back to Sadiq before we see that happen. When the camera cuts back to Carl, he shoots both walkers, and we all assumed that he was just shaken up, the way characters always are on the show after they have close run-ins with walkers and barely escape. But re-examining Chandler Riggs' reaction here, it's totally that of a guy who just got bitten. There's a look of, oh shit, and a subtle look down at his side where he's turned away from Sadiq. But then he turns back to Sadiq with a new look of urgency and resolve on his face as he says, I'm responsible for you now, and sometimes we have to find our own way to show our parents the way. So I love that the show used this opportunity to remind us that these routine scuffles can actually be deadly, even for seemingly unkillable characters. I also like the subtle wink of this happening to Carl next to the body of an elk, which is part of the antlered deer family, like the deer he nearly died next to back in Season 2. This death sentence explains all of Carl's behavior this episode. It's why we see him writing a goodbye note to his father. It's why he offers to sacrifice himself to Negan because he knows he's gonna die anyway. This also answers some questions we had in the season premiere. That Old Man Rick future vision, which included Carl, was indeed hypothetical. Riggs confirmed that it was inspired by the time jump in the comics, but not literally that time jump. Meanwhile, we were probably right about those other shots of teary-eyed Rick. He most likely is burying someone here, his son Carl. This season's opening montage was showing us split futures for Rick. The fantasy one he planned with Carl, and the grim reality he has to live without him. Also, we should acknowledge how huge Carl's departure is for The Walking Dead. Killing Carl is more shocking than killing Glenn, which was adapted almost word for word, shot for shot from the comics. We knew that was coming. But in the comics, Carl lives on to become a major badass and power player. He's the catalyst for major events that are going to happen in the future. Now the show is blazing a new course to adapt these events without him. But to be honest, I love the ballsiness of this. I think The Walking Dead has been better when they set a different course than exactly what's in Robert Kirkman's source material. For example, letting Carol and Daryl be such decisive players on the show. It will also be interesting to see what this death means for Rick and for Negan. Now, I'll talk about that with a deeper meaning later on, but for now, let's talk about the way this episode as a whole served as a sort of tribute for Carl's character. Like that elk-deer connection I pointed out, there are a ton of little connections to past memories of Carl that I want to go over in our segment, Callbacks. Okay, first, you probably noticed the montage of character close-ups that bookended this episode. Most of these character faces were completely pointless and red herrings, as is often the case on the show. The show actually used a similar montage in the Season 7 premiere to indicate that a major character, or in that case characters, were going to die. This montage became a sort of Guess Who death mystery, and it has a similar effect here. We also see the second half of Rick and Carl's conversation from the season premiere, where Carl chastised Rick for only hoping that Sadiq would be okay, rather than showing true mercy and bringing him into the community. Remember, that scene with Carl scavenging for gas was a shot-for-shot recreation of Rick in the pilot episode. Seeing Carl with the gas can beside his dad here reminds us of that time when Rick was alone, when he assumed Carl was probably dead, and it suggests those dark times are coming back. There were some callbacks with Carl and Enid, too. Carl rediscovers that goodbye note Enid left him at the beginning of Season 6, just survive somehow. This is where we learned the meaning of Enid's JSS mantra. Enid also jokes to Aaron that she's a better driver than Carl. That's a callback to Season 7 when Carl followed Enid and ran over a walker to save her, totaling a car in the process. There are more parallels between this shocking death episode and the Season 6 finale shocker death episode. Maggie runs into a similar downed tree savior roadblock that blocked her and the others in that episode. And the image of Jerry as he rolls out of the back of the savior's truck, lit by the headlights of a car, is definitely meant to evoke for Maggie that image of Glenn. But I don't really know how well Maggie really knows Jerry, right? Like Simon's probably like, "Ooh, check it out, widow, we got your best friend." And Maggie's like, you mean that jokey dude with the axe from the kingdom? Yeah, sure, I guess we're friends, whatever. Negan also joins in on the Carl memorializing. He shouts over the walls of Alexandria, suggesting that people apologize to him in creative ways. Write a poem, sing a song, I love that shit. Sing Me a Song was the title of episode 7 last season. It was a line from Negan that episode when he made Carl sing to him. Carl remembers saying, "You Are My Sunshine," a song that his mother sang to him when he was a kid. Later, Negan again references how Carl was actually with his mother when she died. So we're seeing all of Carl's major life moments on the show being mentioned again this episode. Negan also mentions going to Rick's house and making some spaghetti, which is a callback when Negan and Carl made spaghetti at Rick's place in episode 8 of last season. Negan and Carl had an interesting relationship last season. It's almost like Negan respected Carl as a man with a backbone who takes action. Kind of like Negan could see Carl becoming a successor to Rick that he could actually work with. I could see a mutual mourning of Carl being something that could unite Rick and Negan. Not anytime soon, of course. It's going to take Rick some time to fully grieve and process the message that Carl was trying to get through to him. A few other interesting callbacks that I noticed. Simon points to the sound of an opera singer in the distance, crediting Eugene as the way they escaped from the walkers at the sanctuary. Now, it's still not totally clear how exactly the saviors got out, but it sounds like Eugene rigged up a similar fat lady type redirect device like the glider and speaker that he tested out last episode. Now, Dwight shot that one down, but there's no reason to believe that Eugene couldn't build a new type of device. Also, when Dwight joins Daryl and the others, notice how Daryl snatches his vest back from him. This is a callback to Dwight stealing Daryl's vest at the end of Season 6. He's been wearing it ever since. Good on Daryl for getting that back. And when Ezekiel closes and locks the kingdom gates to allow Carol and the others to escape, notice how he leaves her with this little smile. Now, for me, this is a literal example of Ezekiel's idealistic worldview that he outlined in his speech at the beginning of episode 4 of the season. And yet I smile. This smile here suggests that after his crushing defeat, Ezekiel has returned to that optimistic strength. Speaking of Ezekiel, I like how he uses this chain as a sort of prop this episode. Now, remember, this chain used to be Ezekiel's chain for Shiva, his tiger. But ever since Shiva died, he's been moping by the throne with this chain. It's almost like now this chain has been restraining him, imprisoning him in his own shame. But by the end of this episode, this chain becomes a tool of Ezekiel's self-liberation. He uses the same chain to lock the doors of the kingdom and protect his people. By finding a new use for the object that was holding him down, Ezekiel finds a new use for himself. I like that. Another detail I found interesting was the Roanoke Way distillery that Enid and Aaron stop by to bring a welcoming gift for Oceanside that obviously goes unused after Tanya gets accidentally shot. Now, Roanoke is a city in Virginia, though geographically it's actually pretty far from Alexandria. I don't think this is the actual city of Roanoke. Historically, Roanoke originally referred to the English colony on Roanoke Island, North Carolina. Now, if you know your history, Roanoke is called the Lost Colony. It was loosely established in 1585 on that island, but when an expedition expedition team returned to check in on it, the colony had mysteriously vanished. No trace at all of the 90 men, 17 women, or 11 children, nor any sign of a struggle or a battle. All the houses and fortifications had been dismantled, meaning the departure wasn't really rushed. All they found was the word Croatoan carved into a nearby post. Now, Croatoan was the name of a local native tribe and the name of a nearby Croatoan island. So it was implied that the colonists moved onto that island, but it still remained a mystery over the centuries. Anyway, this Roanoke mystery could be connected to Carl and the others having to vacate their colony, Alexandria. Though, of course, all the houses getting bombed and blown up absolutely makes this more of a battle than Roanoke was. Now, before I move on to the deeper meaning, I want to revisit this idea of Carl somehow being immune to the Walker virus. Can he survive this? Now, it's a pretty out there theory, but let's talk about it by activating theory time. Okay, so in many real-world epidemics, it's said that 1% of the population is naturally immune to viral infections. And many believe that in this show, Rick and Carl possess that genetic irregularity. Both of them have sustained major injuries before. Rick's been shot and stabbed. Carl got shot in the eye and had his brains blown out, kind of. And they have both miraculously survived these mortal wounds without dying or succumbing to the zombie virus that overtakes most people on the show when they die. Now, some have suggested this could point to Carl being the source of a cure in the future of the show. Personally, I don't think that's the case. Robert Kirkman has repeatedly said that he doesn't want The Walking Dead to follow the formula of other zombie stories, many of which end with some vaccine being discovered. Instead, Kirkman wants The Walking Dead to keep going, assuming the zombie apocalypse is irreversible, to explore what new society could emerge in that hypothetical world. So to make Carl immune would be completely contrary to what The Walking Dead is all about. And given how definitive the cast and crew has been about Carl's death, this would be an even more annoying, pointless switcheroo on viewers, even worse than Glenn crawling out from under that dumpster in season 6. There are no dumpsters for Carl! Alright, let's move on to the deeper meaning of this episode. This mid-season finale is called How It's Gotta Be, a quote from Carl early in the episode when he tries to explain to his father the need to be merciful to the saviors. Sure, it's a little weird to think about how Carl's death was caused by him needlessly clearing some walkers with this relative stranger, Sadiq, based on Sadiq's mother's belief that putting down walkers releases their souls. But I do think that it shows how stubborn Carl was being on this point, how important it was for him to show his father the importance of mercy. Carl needed to form a connection with the stranger who, like him, is guided by his late mother's values. And by telling Sadiq, sometimes we have to find our own way to show our parents the way, Carl indicated to us that his top priority is tempering his father's fierce righteousness with a sense of understanding and empathy that a real leader requires. So I'm assuming this will be a message that Carl makes a bit more explicitly in his final episode in February, because judging from Rick's reaction here, I think he's more in a state of good old-fashioned Rick Grimes bewilderment. It looks a bit infected. A bit infected, Carl! Sorry, whatever, I guess I should be taking this moment a bit more seriously. But so long as Rick has hope for the future and the survival of his daughter, Judith, losing Carl, despite the shock it delivers to us, fans of the comics, and viewers who have had different ideas of the future of this show, this is a powerful enough force to make a major change in Rick's perspective. Unfortunately, a brutal reminder of the stakes is how it's gotta be. See what I did there? That's the title of the episode, Carl! I'm sorry. I'm gonna check in on the kill count right now. This episode showed a lot of characters accessing their inner killers. Enid killed Natanya from Oceanside. Simon killed Neil, Beardy McHilltop. Maggie killed Dean the Savior. Michonne brutally slaughtered another Savior, and more Saviors were killed in that shootout. But by my count, Dwight tops the list as the deadliest, shooting at least 4 of his own people. Now, he was right to tell Daryl and the others that he cannot go back. This is officially him crossing enemy lines and joining the other side. But I'm curious, I want you guys to answer a question. Which character death on The Walking Dead do you think has had the biggest impact on the show? Now, obviously, the deaths of people like Glenn and Abraham, Beth, Herschel, Lori, and Shane were game changers, but damn, I think the death of Carl could top them all in terms of how Rick's overall trajectory has been altered. Comment down below to let me know your thoughts on this and on this mid-season finale in general. What'd you think? Tweet me directly at Erik Voss and follow New Rockstars on Twitter at New Rockstars for updates on our videos. Now, this video is brought to you by our good friends at Loot Crate. Loot Crate is a monthly subscription box service for epic geek and gamer items and pop culture gear. For less than $20 a month, you get 6 to 8 items that include licensed gear, apparel, collectibles, unique one-of-a-kind items, and more. It's great. There's always stuff in there that I would just never think to buy for myself, but I end up loving all of it. Loot Crate has supported YouTubers since the company shipped its first crate, so by supporting Loot Crate, you're really supporting our channel. Sign up at lootcrate.com/rockstars and enter the code ROCKSTARS to save 10% on any new subscription, or click on the link in the description. Now, I'm gonna unpack last month's crate here. It has the theme of Unite. I just wanna give you an idea of what to expect in these things. The December Loot Crate theme is Explore, and it contains cool items from Destiny 2, Star Wars, Guardians of the Galaxy, and a mystery property. You have until the 19th at 9 p.m. Pacific to subscribe and receive that month's crate, and when the cutoff happens, that's it, it's over. So get on this, start collecting great gear. You will thank me later. Like this video and subscribe to New Rockstars for deep, obsessive analysis of The Walking Dead, and make sure to check out my breakdowns of all the episodes this season for all the other stuff you might have missed. I really appreciate you guys sticking through it with me. I think we've had a great time, made some interesting insights, made a couple mistakes. You guys have been great about that in the comments. And if you really want to help this channel, you can help contribute in any small amount to us on Patreon. Big thanks to all of our current donors, especially Lori Denning. Thanks for watching, guys. See you next year. Bye.